Michel de Montaigne as a precursor of existentialism. By John Vespasian. For historians of philosophy, there is a definite proof that Michel de Montaigne, 1533 to 1592, was a forerunner of modern existentialism. They point to Montaigne's essay titled, "To Study Philosophy is to Learn to Die," and argue that it contains all key ideas of existentialist philosophy. I cannot deny Montaigne's position as a precursor of Jean-Paul Sartre, 1905 to 1980, and Albert Camus, 1913 to 1960, but I want to underline the uniqueness of his ideas. Neither Sartre, Camus, or any other modern existentialist has ever grasped Montaigne's optimism and benevolence. They have also not grasped Montaigne's method. He was not a well-spoken theoretician, even if he did lots of research. Montaigne had a hands-on approach to philosophy that contrasts with later and prior authors. Montaigne loved to read Greek and Roman classics to draw practical wisdom. He admired Socrates, Seneca, Epicurus, and Marcus Aurelius because they had solved problems similar to those he was facing. Montaigne's interest in their ideas was 100% personal. He wanted to improve his own life. When Montaigne affirmed that to study philosophy is to learn to die, he actually meant that to study philosophy is to learn to live, that is, to learn to make the best of each day. Montaigne's essay, "To Study Philosophy is to Learn to Die." Montaigne's goal was not to prepare himself for death, like a monk who goes each day to confession, but to employ death as a motivator to live better, more effectively, and intensely. His awareness of his own mortality led him to cheerfulness, to joy, for the fact that he was still alive and capable of action. Like the ancient Stoics, in particular Seneca, for BC 65 AD, Montaigne had found serenity after accepting his own future death. The fact that he suffered from kidney stones for decades only reinforced his consciousness of death. He enjoyed each day to the maximum, precisely because he had realized that life is so precious and fragile. He was grateful for what he had and put it to good use. In contrast to later existentialists such as Martin Heidegger, 1889 to 1976, Montaigne did not consider his own death as a tragedy or threat. He viewed death as an inevitable part of life. It is an aspect to be reckoned with, not something to agonize about. In the 20th century, existentialists such as Albert Camus theorized about the connection between future death and present anxiety, but such connection played a minor role in Montaigne's philosophy. Instead of experiencing anxiety, Montaigne was too busy living his life and pursuing his own goals. He had no time for gloom and doom, even if he was deeply aware of the problems of his time: prejudice, violence, and poverty. Montaigne's version of existentialism. Montaigne wanted to find solutions for those problems, but refused to despair about the world. He would not devote even 1 minute to condemning other people's foolishness, ignorance, and short-sightedness. What a difference with modern existentialists such as José Ortega y Gasset, 1883 to 1955, who devoted their careers to tell readers that society is falling apart and civilization is about to collapse because increasingly fewer individuals are capable of thinking for themselves. Like modern existentialists, Montaigne preferred to face the facts. He knew that his lifespan was limited and that death was always stalking him. Why was Montaigne so acutely aware of death? Because in his youth, he had experienced the death of his best friend, the lawyer and poet Étienne de la Boétie. After a brief period of mourning, Montaigne had concluded that he should better make the best of his own life. His years and energies were limited. Thus, he should devote them to the pursuit of a worthy goal. Montaigne set himself the long-term goal of reading history and writing essays, as many as he could. He took his plan very seriously and committed the ensuing 2 decades to his goal. I commend his dedication and productivity and encourage every person to set himself ambitious long-term goals. Montaigne's views on mortality. Franz Kafka, 1883 to 1924, and other existentialist writers do not understand Montaigne's reflections about death. They are so obsessed with social pressure, fear, and intolerance that they blow them out of proportion. They depict human beings as frightened, mindless puppets that have no chance to improve their station in life. Montaigne had a more realistic view of human beings and their intellect. He knew that humans are capable of assessing problems, identifying solutions, and carrying them out. I regret to say that existentialist writers such as Kafka lack Montaigne's optimistic mindset. Like Seneca, Montaigne claimed not to fear death. He said that he was ready to die any time because his only concern was to live each day to the maximum. By making the best of one's life, one can eventually experience a good death as a natural end of years of happiness. To a large extent, Montaigne drew his concept of the good life from the writings of Marcus Aurelius, 161 to 180 AD, who had committed himself to living according to nature. Aurelius embraced moderation, serenity, and equanimity as guidelines for his own behavior. Nonetheless, there is a major difference between Montaigne and Stoics or existentialist philosophers. While they devoted an inordinate amount of time to worrying about potential threats, Montaigne did his best to prevent them. In his youth, he gave extensive thought to the question of minimizing risks, sickness, poverty, crime, etc., devised good countermeasures, and implemented them consistently. Instead of agonizing about potential problems, he rendered them less threatening and less likely to happen. Although Montaigne was a professed Catholic, religion is playing only a minor role in his philosophical essays. He read extensively about the afterlife, but remained unconvinced. It is better to enjoy life each day to the maximum, he concluded. If the afterlife exists, so much the better, but one shouldn't worry in excess about it. That is say, to study philosophy is to learn to die. Montaigne's prescription for the good life. Montaigne's essay, "To study philosophy is to learn to die," is profoundly existentialist in his conclusions. It calls for growing conscious of one's mortality, acquiring a serene perspective of the future, and making the best of each day. Mortality, according to Montaigne, is neither unusual nor evil. It is the common destiny of all living creatures, although only humans are conscious of their limited lifespan. Instead of fearing our mortality, let us employ it as motivation to draw a maximum of joy from each hour. Like modern existentialists, Montaigne builds his philosophy around time. He knows that his days are limited, but cannot tell how many he has left. Thus, he keeps trudging forward, doing things that he enjoys or that need to be done. Montaigne does not lament his own mortality. Instead, he is devoted to working in his garden, running his estate, enjoying the company of family and friends, reading interesting books, and writing down his thoughts. In doing so, he is learning to die because he has learned to live. His motivation is strong because he hopes that tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, he will still be around to enjoy life and keep pursuing his goals. With this attitude, he had earned enormous psychological strength, serenity, and happiness. "I want death to find me planting cabbages in my garden," Montaigne wrote. He wanted to devote his time and energies to building real happiness instead of worrying about the future. If you are interested in putting rational ideas into practice in all sorts of situations, I recommend my book titled The 10 Principles of Rational Living. For more information, go to johnvespasian.com.